with them. There are a lot more pictures that have to go into that, but I just kind of wanted an idea of what the final product would look like. Okay, back to Isaac Hull. He was born in 1773. On the first page of my upcoming book, picture book biography of Isaac is a picture of a 1776 bond that Isaac Hull's father co-signs with the paymaster for the Revolutionary War. Interestingly, Joseph signs it Joseph Hull Jr. of Derby. Derby was quite often pronounced that way, and by attaching the junior suffix, borrowed from Joseph's deceased dad, Joseph enhances his credibility by bringing attention to the long line of well-reputed Joseph Hulls that came before him. Soon after signing that document, Isaac Hull's father, who was a lieutenant of the Continental Army, got captured by the British and was held in the prison hulk until he got released on a prisoner exchange in 1778. After his release, Joseph switched to naval wartime activities and captured a British armed schooner as a war prize that he brought back to Derby. On the second page of my upcoming book is an actual mortgage of property signed by Isaac's Uncle William and Aunt Sarah. Perhaps the record of a loan, perhaps this record is of a loan that may be an indicator that the former Revolutionary War Colonel Uncle William needed some extra money to, say, feed an additional household member. To hear Isaac's cousin tell it, about 1785, Joseph Hull sent his son Isaac to brother Colonel William Hull of Newton, Massachusetts. Uncle William's daughter described the arrival of her cousin as a chubby boy of about 10 years old. He came alone in the stage from Derby, a long journey for those days, unannounced and unexpected. Meeting his uncle with, "How do you do, Uncle? I'm Isaac Hull, come to live with you." It is at this juncture in Isaac Hull's life where many biographical accounts have taken a giant assumptive leap of inaccuracy. In fact, the U.S. Navy official biography even has it wrong. A 20th or 21st century observer often makes the presumption that Isaac was orphaned by his father's death. Not so. In many traditional families, uncles were expected to take on a nephew to groom him for a vocation. In fact, Isaac's brothers were sent to Joseph's other brothers to learn different skills. Isaac had been sent to Uncle William to presumably learn to become an attorney like his uncle, but Isaac had other ideas. He had a passion for the sea. After a few, maybe a couple years of schooling, it shows up in his letters, his writing, his uncle, quote, found a place for Isaac on a merchant ship commanded by a friend of his. Isaac served time as cabin boy, foremast hand, second to first mate, with the same captain whose life he had saved in a shipwreck in 1797, end quote. Eventually, Isaac became a shipmaster, then an owner, as a merchant plying a trade in the West Indies. This chapter of Hull's life might very well be captioned Pirates of the Caribbean Part 1. Why? Because French privateers swarmed the place in the 1790s. In those times, an American merchant transporting goods, cattle, and other provisions were ripe for the picking. In many a scenario, a merchant vessel, its goods would be confiscated at the point of a cannon. If the victim was lucky enough to still have his clothes, he would find a sponsor to send him back home on a boat that might just as easily get confiscated. Isaac himself fell prey to such a nightmare merry-go-round. It was perhaps here that Isaac got a heaping taste of the idea that the establishment of a robust U.S. Navy may eventually change things around for the better. Which takes us to the sequel, Pirates of the Caribbean Part 2. But this time, Hull is not the hapless merchant being preyed upon. He becomes more like the new sheriff in town, so to speak, as lieutenant on board a U.S. warship. On the next page of the picture book is basically one of the few remaining records of Isaac Hull's entrance into the Navy. It comes in the form of an old newspaper posting with the names of officers assigned to a new class of frigate. In this new life episode of Pirates of the Caribbean, Part 2, Isaac becomes a scene stealer, by the way. Cutting out the sandwich may mean, over here, cutting the crust from a tasty hors d'oeuvre. But in Hull's time, the sandwich was the name of a suspected French privateer. Hull organized a flawless surprise and a well-executed operation in which he boarded and captured it. How to figuratively, that word's hard, figuratively, describe Hull's biography? On one hand, you could almost call it an ultra-easy version of Where's Waldo. On quite a few pages of history, you will find it. But the difference is, you don't have to look hard to spot it. In the context of U.S. history, it is quite prominent. Chapter 3, that gets named To the Shores of Tripoli. That's where you'll find Lieutenant Hull in command of a well-built ship named the Argus, with a squadron commanded by Captain Preble, whose task in hand was to bring an end to piracy in the Mediterranean. As observed by midshipman Andrew Scammell Wadsworth, Hull was a standout. When Captain Preble made signals from his command ship to chase down the suspect boat, Preble was especially pleased that Hull righted his boat, cut into sail, and pursued in a matter of 8 minutes. This is the days of Age of Sail. And those lines in the U.S. Marine hymn, they refer to those Marines whom Hull took on board his ship and gave nautical support in the form of supplies, cannon fire, and transports for the assault on Durham. With the matter of the Mediterranean put to the side for a while, the prevailing climate was such that France and Britain, engaged in their incessant warring, were not going to give the Americans an easy time of conducting trade overseas. By 1811, guess who's making good on the debt to Holland from the loans Holland had made way back to fund the U.S. Revolution? Yes, it was now Captain Isaac Hull, carrying diplomats to France and England and a load of specie for the Netherlands. Isaac, at this time, was on pins and needles because British ships at the peak of war with France staged harassing maneuvers and threatening antics around Hull's ship. Captain Hull sent his first lieutenant along with Joe Barlow to attend Ambassador Morris. He sent his first lieutenant Morris along with Joe Barlow to attend ambassador services. It's hard for me to read here. It's noteworthy that while there, Morris was fooled as to the emperor's height. Emperor Napoleon. Charles Morris guessed that Napoleon was 5'8". What he probably didn't notice were the platform shoes from beneath the robe. Most of all, in light of this display at the Humphrey House, I think it's still there, he was introduced to Kosciuszko. Okay, it was an unexpected introduction. Kosciuszko laid both hands. Oh, anyway, that's Kosciuszko. You should know was the Revolutionary War officer that came from Europe. Okay, from Poland actually. Well, anyway, Kosciuszko, like Lafayette, was then residing in the country near Paris, and in great retirement, out of favor with the government, if not under surveillance, and then did very little to society, where few who sympathized him with feelings and opinions, or any expression of them could be made without danger. Kosciuszko, when he met Morris, laid both hands on his head. His manner, it was unexpected. His manner made a strong impression on me. Laying both hands upon my head, he invoked the blessing of the Almighty on me with great fervor and solemnity, to my no small astonishment and confusion. Anyway. In 1812, war with Great Britain was declared. What does the next episode get for a name? High Drama Jersey Shore Episode. High Drama Jersey Shore Episode, it does not mean Snooki staging a docudrama meltdown. It does not mean a hurricane. What it did mean in Hull's time was that what had come to be known by sailors as a certain stretch of waters called the Jersey Shore. It was here in these waters where Isaac Hull and his crew of the USS Constitution managed to outrun count of five, British warships in a 60-hour-long ordeal. Everyone should know what comes next. Last week I was standing in the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem in front of Felix Corneille's paintings of the August 19, 1812 battle between the USS Constitution and the HMS Guerriere off the coast of Nova Scotia. One painting the approach, one painting the battle, one painting the aftermath. In Theodore Roosevelt's words, Hull outmaneuvered Broke and Byron as cleverly as a month later he outfought Dacres. His successful escape and victorious fight were performed in a way that placed him above any single ship captain of the war. Teddy Roosevelt goes on to say, of all the excellent ship captains, British or American, produced by the war, the palm should be awarded to Hull. Let's now hear from Isaac Hull's first lieutenant. Our success was hailed as an earnest of what might be expected from others, an expectation that was nobly realized by the actions of the United States with Macedonia, the Wasp with the Frolic, the Constitution with the Java, and the capture of several others on the ocean, and the enemy's squadron on Lake Erie and Lake Champlain. These repeated captures from an enemy who for a long time had been accustomed to unvaried success gave a high naval reputation abroad, and obtained for the Navy a favorable opinion of our own country, which had not